Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone, for the fourth time. I hope you are all really, really well. This is the first live stream I have done in quite a while. So I am so excited to welcome you to the Sparks and Space Challenge. So this is my free 3-day live event, which will give you sparks of inspiration and the space to remind you who you truly are. Now, the aim is for you to come away with more confidence, to trust yourself, and to create the success that you want. A way to tackle those negative voices in your head once and for all. And even if you feel super stuck, do not worry, this will really help. And how to feel fulfilled and happy whilst growing your business and also improving on your life. And it honestly feels so good to be going live. And I'm so honored that you're watching and that you've made time for yourself and you're open to learning. Now, there was a time when I would sign up to something like this and I would get really excited and ready to learn. But then what would happen is I'd end up getting distracted or I would be multitasking, and then I would miss out on those golden nuggets that were being given away to me for free. We have a tendency to sign up for free events or live streams or things like this, but we don't place much value on the importance of them because they're sometimes for free, when in fact they could be exactly what we're looking for. So has there ever been a time when you've done that too, where you've signed up to something, got really, really excited about it, and then got completely distracted or not placed very much importance on it and thought, oh, I'll get to it later, and then just not watched it, and you've missed out on something that could potentially be absolutely incredible for you? Well, don't let today be that day. Decide and commit to giving this your full attention, like put out all the other distractions away, just like close the door if you're in your home office, and just try and use this time for yourself. So if you are happy to do that, if you're keen to do that, then please let me know. Give me a little bit of a yes in the chat. Oh, hi, lovely. It's so nice to see some of you here. It's really lovely. So I am beyond grateful that I get to be here and to talk to you about some science-based mindset strategies to really, really help you come back to who you are. And some of you may know me as the Glow Getter, the award-winning business owner helping indie beauty brands learn marketing and social media to grow online. I've won awards from Google. I've helped brands go from like a few £100s to like 40, 50K months online. I've helped small part-time business owners grow to like full-time business owners. And I absolutely loved doing that and really, really enjoyed it. But what you might not know is that in January 2021, I got really severe burnout. And not just the burnout where you need to take a bit of a nap and have a bit of a holiday. It was the emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental burnout that you need to literally just stop and deeply, truly rest. But no one gave me that advice. And because we've been brought up in this patriarchal world of push, 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 and then push some more until you can't go anymore, then you end up getting slower and slower every day, or at least I did. And I got to the point where I would come and sit at my desk each morning and I would stare at the screen and just feel so overwhelmed and completely and utterly exhausted and not knowing what to do. And these voices started to come up in my head, which were talking to me in a really, really horrible way, saying, oh, you're worthless, you sit here and you can't do anything, like you should be pushing on, like that magic word should, like you should be doing this, you should be going and carrying on in spite of everything that's happening at home, you should be able to show up and you should be able to do all these things. And I got to the stage where, after the millionth time of having this like internal war in my head, there was one morning where I sat down at my desk and I just finished like my most successful launch ever. It was like a 5-figure launch and like everybody loved it. And I was completely and utterly like just exhausted. And it was at that moment when I heard like those whispers of the soul that you tend to get say, there has to be a better way. And I was like, oh, okay, uh, fine. Like, but okay, what does that look like? And then I started to have these kind of these conversations with the whispers of the soul rather than listening to this really, really loud voice in my head. And what started to happen was I was having this internal dialogue with something which was kind of in my heart, and then this battle in my head, which was, who do you think you are to think that you could go and retrain or go and do that other thing that you wanted to do? And who do you think you are to be able to achieve those things or have those goals? Or who do you think you are to be able to help people with mindset and help them go after their goals? And that negative voice in my head was so loud and it was really big. But also, the whispers of my soul and my courage was bigger. And when I could remember that my courage was bigger, I started to take steps forward each and every day to get to where I wanted to go. And what was really interesting was I in my purse, my lovely little mulberry purse, I have kept this poem from my school teacher since I was 16. And I stumbled across it. I've completely forgotten about it. And I want to read it to you. Now, it's very, very well known by Marianne Williamson. But it says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't save the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. Now, like, take God, universe, the language within that as you will. That's completely open to interpretation. But as I started to listen to those whispers of the soul and listen to these little nudges and see them as I was moving forward, it came to the stage where here I am today in front of you as your mindset coach, who is hopefully going to knock your socks off with some golden nuggets of fun and some insight, and to give you some real practical changes so that you can have everything that you want in life and achieve those goals, but also have that happiness that you so, so truly deserve. So I hope you're all ready for this, because we're going to dive in. Woohoo! So day one of the Sparks in Space Challenge is going to be doing a bit of a deep dive into those negative voices in your head. Now, we call them saboteurs, and I want to give you a little bit of an introduction to like the terminology and who this and where this like kind of concept and modality has come from, first of all. So I trained firstly with Mind Valley, which is a really huge organization, as a business coach. And then I went further into the mindset side with a guy called Shazad Shamin. And that was a training that I did called Positive Intelligence, or PQ. Now, PQ has been created by the super smart man, Shazad, and he's a Stanford lecturer. He's the chairman of the Coach Training Institute, which is one of the largest coach training organizations in the world. And he's done a PhD, he has PhD studies in neuroscience, and he's the creator of this. Now, the reason that I think mindset coaching is the thing that is incredible is that I've done the personal development courses. I have walked across the hot coals at Tony Robbins events. I have done the therapy every single week for 2 years straight. I have read the books. I have done everything you can possibly think of. And what has made the biggest difference is positive intelligence. And I think the reason why it's so incredible is that it is all based off science. They have done studies where they've put people underneath fMRI machines, where at the beginning of the 6 weeks, and then at the end of the 6 weeks, which is a program that I take people through with positive intelligence, and they found that at the end of those 6 weeks, there is atrophy, so a decrease in muscle mass in the negative voices and the survival part of your brain, and an increase in the right hand side of your brain and the thriving part, like the wisest, most creative, kindest, empathetic part of your brain. And that kind of just blew me away a little bit. So I was like, right, okay. When I was starting to go through it, I was like, let's just keep going with it. And also, what I then started to find out as I trained in it more was that Shazad has taken neuroscience, positive psychology, cognitive behavioral science, and sports psychology, and taken all the best bits out of that, and then also used something called factor analysis research, which is where, if we say, for example, use the theory of colors or the example of colors, there's thousands of colors in the world. But when you apply factor analysis to it, it gets to the root cause of something. So that root cause would be that there are actually only three colors that stem from all these other colors in the world, and they are blue, red, and yellow. So what he's done is then use all of these psychologies, all of these mindset strategies out in the world, and applied factor analysis to it. So we've got right to the root cause of what is going on in people's minds. And this has been used and tested on over 1 million people. Google use this with their high performers. I know that Nestle do it, Stanford University, Pinterest, DBS, like Microsoft, loads of really big companies. So it's proven, and it's really fascinating. So what I'm going to do today is take you through the 10 saboteurs that this factor analysis research had taken has been applied to. And it's what we found is that there's one key saboteur that everybody has, and then there are 9 accomplice saboteurs. So these are all triggered by the main one, and we all have different flavors. So I'm going to take you through them to see if you can figure out if you can see yourself in any of them. Now, I guarantee you will, because unless you are Yoda and you are completely enlightened, we all have them. And what we tend to do is try and push them away a lot. Whereas what we're going to do here is just lean into them a little bit more and see what it's about, and see if we can start to work with ourselves rather than against ourselves. So I hope you are excited for that. Please let me know in the chat if you are, and also I would love to hear your comments, and if you recognize yourself in any of the saboteurs I'm going to take you through. I've got some notes over here, so I'm going to just be looking here so that I make sure I don't miss anything out for you, and you can get like loads of goodness from it. So the main saboteur is called the judge. Now, the judge is super sneaky because it doesn't just judge ourselves. And some people, when they hear the judge, think, oh, well, I don't judge other people, or I don't really judge myself, so I don't think I've got it. And the reason the judge is sneaky is because it doesn't just judge ourselves, it doesn't just judge others, it also can judge situations and circumstances. So if I give you an example first of all three of them. So the first one is judging ourselves, which can sound something like this. Ugh, Ailish, you idiot. Like, why do you even do that? You're an absolute failure. Like, who do you even think you are to be doing any of this, to be doing this fabulous mindset coaching? Like, you're a failure. Why are you even bothering to start? Now, then there's the judging of others. So this might go something like this. So there's two little parts to it. So judging of others might be, oh my God, she's absolutely nailing it right now. And I just think she's so fantastic. Like, how could I even compare? There's just not space for me in this industry. Like, they're all doing it and they're amazing and they're super successful. Like, who's going to listen to me at the beginning? Or it might go, oh, she's just not even that good. Like, why are people listening to her? She's an absolute tool. I don't rate her whatsoever. Surely other people can see this. She's a load of rubbish. And then finally, there's the judge on circumstances. So that might go something like this. Oh my God, she's absolutely nailing it right now. And oh my God, I just can't be happy in this situation right now. Like, I can't be happy where I am. and I just don't think I'll be able to thrive here. It's just impossible. Like, everything's against me. I can't make any changes. I just don't feel like I'm in control of this situation, and there's just no good to come out of this. So with that, can you see how the judge is like a little bit sneaky? Because if it's, you can have all three of them at the same time as well. So it might be like it's judging yourself in a situation, it might be you're judging somebody else and yourself at the same time. And you've just got this comparison trap going on, or it might be the whole just a situation where you're like, I just don't feel like I can get out of it. So that judge then activates these accomplice judges, accomplice saboteurs. So what these other saboteurs do, they all have different little flavors, and I've got names for them all. So pay attention to the names, and if you've got a pen and a notebook, just maybe see if you can write it down, what kind of comes up for you. So the first one is the hyperachiever. Now, the hyperachiever saboteur is dependent on constant performance and achievement for self-respect and self-validation. Now, this was mine quite massively. And you're highly focused on external success, and it sometimes leads to these unsustainable workaholic tendencies. And you sometimes lose touch with the deeper emotional and relationship needs that you have and with others. You're competitive, you're maybe a bit image focused and a bit image conscious, and you're really good at covering up your insecurities and showing that positive image. And you may think, I must be the best at what I do, otherwise there's no point. Or if I can't be outstanding, then there's no point in me bothering. And you tend to get your worthiness from being successful and making sure that others think really well of you. So that's the hyperachiever. Now, if you recognize that in yourself, then just like make a little note of like the word hyperachiever, because I'll come back to this at the end, and you'll be able to find out through a quiz that I've got what you are officially. Then the next accomplice saboteur we have is the people pleaser. Now, this saboteur is an indirect attempt to gain acceptance and affection by helping and pleasing and flattering or rescuing others. Now, this is really high up on my list as well. You probably have all 9 of them in varying degrees, but these two, like the hyperachiever and people pleaser, were quite high up for me. You might lose sight of your own needs though and become resentful as a result. And you struggle with expressing your own needs openly and directly. And you do so by making other people then feel obligated to reciprocate in some way. So that if you're overgiving, then you expect them to overgive. And you may think, or have been brought up to think, that to be a good person, I should always put the needs of myself behind the needs of others. And it bothers you when people don't notice or care about what you've done or how much you've overhelped them. And then you start to feel like other people are really selfish or ungrateful. So that's the people pleaser. Then there's the avoider. Now, the avoider has a focus on positive and pleasant things in an extreme way. So it tends to, the avoider tends to avoid really difficult or unpleasant tasks and conflicts. And it may say yes to things and downplay the importance of some real problems because you're trying to deflect the unpleasantness. So you might say yes to something, but you really don't want to do it, but you don't want to let somebody down. So you're like, oh, okay, I'll just do it, even though I don't really want to. And then you tend to flip then to the other side, which is where you'll lose yourself in comforting tasks and routines and habits. But you tend to procrastinate on things that you don't deem to be pleasant. And you may think you found balance and you don't want to mess it up in any way, shape, or form. So you just give everybody else their own way rather than create a scene. So that's the avoider. Then we have the hypervigilant. So this saboteur is where you have this constant and intense anxiety about all the dangers in your life, and you have a strong focus on what could go wrong. So you're always like, oh my God, but this could happen, but this could happen, but this could happen. You're always like down the what if route of negativity, and your vigilance will just never rest. So you're in constant expectation of all of these mishaps or dangers or things that could go wrong. And you always think, well, when's the other shoe going to drop? Or you may worry that if you've made a mistake, everybody's going to be really, really angry and mad at you. So that's the hypervigilant. Then there's the controller. Now, I've spoken to a few people who have this. It always makes me chuckle because they're like, I feel attacked. But the controller is where you have an anxiety-based need to take charge and control of situations. And you try and bend your actions, bend other people's actions to your own will. So this results in like high anxiety and real impatience when that's just not possible. So you may connect with other people through competition or challenge or conflict instead of those like softer, kinder emotions. And you may think that you're either in control or completely out of control, and there's no gray area in between. And or with that, like sometimes the voices in your head might say, without me nothing's going to get done, and you need to keep pushing people, otherwise they're not going to do the thing. So that's the controller. Then contrasting the controller with the saboteur called the stickler. So the stickler is a perfectionist, and they have a real need for order and organization that's just a bit too full on. So your saboteur will be really, really punctual, you're methodical, you're a perfectionist, and you can get really irritated and tense and opinionated and sarcastic. And you're highly sensitive to criticism. And if you can't do it perfectly, then you're just like, I'm not going to do it at all. I'm not going to try. And you maybe live in this like constant frustration and emotional irritation that you can feel sometimes really alone and misunderstood. So then we have, I hope you're keeping up with me here, then we have the hyper rational. Now, the hyper rational, I do not have very much of, and you'll see why in a minute. But the hyper rational has this real intense and exclusive focus on the rational processing of everything. So, like, emotions are superfluous. And you can sometimes be perceived as cold or distant or intellectually arrogant. And you have this intense and active mind, but you don't let anybody into those deeper feelings that maybe are going on. And you prefer just to watch the surrounding craziness and analyze rather than say anything. And you sometimes get frustrated with others being emotional and irrational, and you can feel really, really alone in that. Then we have the restless. Now, a few of my brand founders have the restless in them, which always makes me giggle. So this is where you're constantly in search of greater excitement and fulfillment, and you're always really, really busy. And you can rarely be at peace or content with the current activity that you're doing or where you're going. And you get super easily distracted, and you can get quite scattered as well with it. And you stay busy, always juggling all these different tasks and plans, and you always seek excitement and variety, but not comfort and safety in any way, shape, or form. And you also think, why can't everyone keep up with me? And you're impatient and you're always wondering, like, what's next? And you're restless and you always want more and more and more options. So that's the restless. And then finally, I know we've been through 8 there, so the last one is the victim. So this saboteur is where you're super emotional and you're temperamental, and that's your style, so you can gain affection and attention. And you've got this extreme focus on internal feelings, particularly painful ones. So you sometimes have a bit of a martyr streak as well. And if you're criticized or misunderstood, you tend to withdraw and pout. And sometimes it can result in depression or apathy and just lots of fatigue. And you may think, nobody understands me, poor me, terrible things always happen to me, and I wish someone would rescue me from this dreary mess. So those are the top 9 accomplice saboteurs, and then you've heard the top saboteur, which is the judge. Now, do any of them resonate for you when you were hearing me describe them? It's completely normal if you did. And if you didn't, don't worry, because maybe we need to deep dive a little bit further into it. But I do have a quiz that if you want to find out what your top saboteur is, all you need to do is DM me on Instagram saying the word quiz, and then you'll be able to take the quiz and find out which one you are. So you recognize too many in yourself. Yeah, so we all have varying degrees of them. So out of the 9, you'll always get scored on some of them. Yeah, and it's similar to the Enneagram. But what tends to happen with this is when you get the insight, you can actually do something about it. And this is the real difference between PQ and other modalities and other theories, is that what happens is I'm giving you 20% insight here. It's like some little light bulb moments, and you're like, okay, yeah, like I can see myself in these. And then you go away and you carry on. And I might give you some tips at the end. But it's not until you can then start to actually put the daily habits in place, which are like less than 15 minutes a day. But those daily habits in place are the thing that rewires your brain to then be able to make real change happen. But most modalities don't tell you about that. Most modalities just give you that insight and send you on your way. And then you're always wondering, well, like, I've done all of these courses. I've been like this serial course and personal development buyer, but I've never really made any change. And I felt a little bit better for a while, but then I've sunk back down into my old habits again. And that's the opposite of what PQ does. It literally gives you the tools to be able to make those changes really simply and really effectively. So if you are interested in finding out about your saboteurs, then all you need to do is just send me the DM quiz, and then my lovely little chatbot person will sign you up within 10 seconds. Now, I want to give you just a couple of things before I finish, to a couple of questions just to sit and have a think about and maybe journal on over the next 10 minutes, because I know we're all super busy, but if you can give yourself 10 minutes after this just to be able to kind of integrate what you've learned and then also ask yourself these questions, then it really starts to help to lean in and stop fighting yourself and start to commune with yourself a little bit more. So one of the lies that we tend to get told is when we hear our saboteurs, we should always tell them just to shut up and go away. Now, the problem with this is that when we do that, that voice gets louder and louder and louder because it's not being heard. And we tend to have this fight with ourselves rather than starting to commune with ourselves and giving it a voice to then find out what it can then help us with, because those negative voices are in our head for a reason. Our brain is there to keep us safe, but not to keep us happy. So when we start to instead fight ourselves and choose a different way, that's when we can start to really, really make some change. So one of the questions I want you to ask yourself, first of all, is how does this saboteur or these saboteurs show up in my day-to-day life? What do they say to me? Is it my voice or is it somebody else's? What scenarios do they show up in? And what specifically does it say to me? And then once you've done that and you spent a little bit of time getting familiar with that saboteur, I then want you to ask yourself this question. What is it costing me to keep this saboteur and listen to its lies? So what is it costing me to keep this saboteur and listen to its lies? And then my final couple of questions for you are, when you've kind of written all of those down, I then want you to say, okay, I'm listening. What would you like to say? Now, this is a letter. It's almost like it's giving your saboteurs a voice, because they've never really been given a voice before. They've shouted at you lots, but we've never actually communed with them enough to give them the voice to go, okay, what would you like to say? And then you just free write on that for like a couple of minutes. But then the second question is really, really important, that then says, okay, so how do we grow? Because when we can give those saboteurs a voice to then give us an opportunity to go, okay, how do you want to grow? You've told me all of these things. You've been here battling with me for ages, but how do you want to grow? It will be so fascinating to see what then comes out. Because what tends to happen, like I've said before, is we battle ourselves, but we don't give those saboteurs a voice to go, so how do we grow together? Because you're probably going to be there for the rest of my life. And your voice tends to die down when I give you a voice to say, how do we grow? So those are some questions that I'd really encourage you to journal on a little bit, to sit and mull over for a couple of minutes, and then just see what comes out and be really, really curious. So on day 2, which is tomorrow at the same time at 11:30, we're then going to be looking at the sage mindset. Now, this is the wisest, most creative and fun part of your brain, which is actually in the right hand side of your brain, and the prefrontal cortex. And this is where we want to be living more from. We want to be in that more empathetic, creative, encouraging, motivated, curious side of our brains more, and less in that negative side, so that then we can be fulfilled in what we're doing and grateful for where we are and excited for where we're going, but also really happy too, because success without happiness is the ultimate failure, and we don't want that for you, because you deserve so much more. So we are definitely going to be going live at 11:30 tomorrow. And if you want to hear all about the Sage Mindset, definitely come to that. And then also, if you haven't taken the quiz yet, just send me a DM with the word quiz, and I can get you signed up for the quiz. And then also, if you are watching this but you've not signed up to the 3-day event, then just DM me the word happy, and I can get you signed up so you don't miss any of the good stuff that's about to come over the next few days. All right, I really hope you love that. I had so much fun talking to you about it. It's just so much fun, and I love it. And if you have any questions, or if you've got any takeaways, just send me a DM and just like have a little chat with me in it, because I would absolutely love that. And if I don't speak to you before, I will see you tomorrow at 11:30 for day 2 of the Sparks and Space Challenge. All right, take care. Bye bye.